One of the hardest things for people to accept is that sometimes silence is the only form of closure you'll ever get. We live in a world where we're conditioned to chase answers. We want to understand why someone left, why they changed, why something that felt so real suddenly fell apart. And the mind starts playing tricks on you. It whispers, if I just call them one more time, maybe I'll finally understand. But here's the truth, that one more call isn't about understanding them. It's about avoiding yourself. We chase closure because we think we'll make the pain easier. We think knowing why will help us heal. But often that why doesn't heal you. It just keeps you trapped in the same loop of emotional dependency. What you're really craving is not an explanation, it's validation. You want to feel that your love, your effort, your time still mattered. And that's human. But the problem is, when you keep reaching out to the person who broke your peace, you're asking the wound to heal you. Here's what I want you to understand. Closure is not something someone gives you, it's something you decide. You can spend months, even years, replaying conversations in your head, trying to make sense of what happened. You can analyze every word, every text, every pause. But no amount of overthinking will rewrite the truth. They made a choice, and now you have to make yours. You can either keep calling the past, or you can answer the call of your future. The reason most people struggle to let go is because they confuse attachment with meaning. They think that because something mattered once, it must still matter now. But not everything that enters your life is meant to stay. Some people are chapters, not the whole story. And when a chapter ends, you don't keep reading it. You turn the page. Because if you don't, you never get to the part where the story gets better. And I'll tell you something else. Chasing someone who's already left isn't strength. It's fear. It's the fear of being alone, the fear of being unseen, the fear that maybe you weren't enough. But you were. You always were. The fact that someone couldn't see your value doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just means they didn't have the vision to recognize it. And that's not your burden to carry. At some point, you have to choose peace over answers. You have to stop reopening wounds just to see if they still hurt. You have to stop calling people who've already shown you they're not listening. There's power in stillness. There's strength in saying nothing. Because when you stop chasing, you stop bleeding. You reclaim that energy, the energy you were wasting on questions that don't matter anymore. And you start pouring it into yourself, into your healing, into your growth, into your future. And that's when something extraordinary happens. You realize that you don't need closure from them, because the real closure was the moment you stopped needing it. So don't call them again. Not because you're angry, not because you're proving a point, but because you finally understood that peace doesn't come from other people's explanations. It comes from your own decision to let go. It's easy to take rejection personally. It feels like someone looked at you, saw everything you are, and said, no, that's not enough. And that stings, because you gave your time, your emotion, your effort. You showed up with authenticity, and somehow it still didn't work out. But here's what I've learned over and over again. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's a redirection of your path. It's life's way of saying, this isn't your destination. Keep moving. Most people don't see that at first. They stay stuck in the narrative of loss. They replay every moment, every word, wondering what they could have done differently. But the truth is, not everything you lose is a loss. Sometimes the people who walk away are simply removing themselves from a story they were never meant to finish with you. And the faster you accept that, the faster you can start growing from it. Think about this: the universe, life, God, whatever name you give that higher intelligence, doesn't operate on your timeline or your emotions. It operates on alignment. There are people who were perfect for who you used to be, but they can't walk with who you're becoming. And when you start to evolve, when you start to raise your standards, it's natural that some people won't fit anymore. Rejection, in that sense, is often divine editing. It's life removing characters who can't carry the next chapter of your story. What most of us call rejection is actually protection. That door that closed, it wasn't punishment, it was prevention. It was saving you from wasting years in a situation that would have dimmed your light, drained your energy, and kept you small. But because we get emotionally attached, we fight it. We try to reopen doors that were locked for a reason. We keep calling, we keep reaching, we keep hoping they'll come around. And in doing that, we block the very blessings that were trying to reach us. See, when something or someone leaves your life, it's not always about you doing something wrong. Sometimes it's because life knows something you don't. It knows that if that person had stayed, you wouldn't have grown. You wouldn't have discovered your strength, your voice, your self-worth. You were meant to outgrow them. And they were meant to outgrow the version of you that needed their approval. That's why perspective is everything. When you shift from asking, why is this happening to me, to what is this teaching me, you move from victimhood to power. Because rejection is not just something to survive, it's something to learn from. It refines you. It clarifies your boundaries. It sharpens your understanding of what you will and won't accept in the future. Every note life gives you is a filter, removing what's not aligned so you can find what is. So the next time someone leaves, instead of asking, why did they go, ask yourself, what space did that create for me? Because that's where the beauty lies, in the opening that follows the ending. Every rejection, every goodbye, Every unanswered call is simply redirecting you toward a version of life that's bigger than the one you were settling for. When you finally understand that, you stop chasing what's gone and start trusting what's coming. You stop seeing rejection as a wound and start seeing it as a compass. Because sometimes losing something you thought you needed is exactly what makes space for what you truly deserve. Energy flows where attention goes, and that truth is more powerful than most people realize. Every time you call, text, or think about someone who's no longer meant to be in your life, you're sending energy their way. You're feeding something that no longer feeds you. And the problem isn't just emotional, it's energetic. Because what you focus on expands. When your focus stays stuck in the past, your energy stays stuck there too. And that's why so many people feel drained, anxious, or lost after someone walks away. It's not because they can't move on. It's because they're still investing in what's gone. Your attention is currency. Every thought, every emotion, every minute you spend thinking about someone is a form of investment. The question is, what's your return? Most people keep pouring energy into connections that no longer serve them, hoping something will change, hoping the past will suddenly reward their persistence. But life doesn't work that way. If you're constantly spending energy on what left, you won't have enough left for what's coming. You can't build your future with the bricks of your past. What people forget is that attention is choice. Where you place it determines what grows in your life. Focus on pain and you'll find more pain. Focus on growth and you'll start to see possibilities that weren't visible before. This is why detachment isn't about indifference. It's about power. Detachment means choosing to stop giving your emotional energy to what depletes you. It's not that you stop caring. It's that you start caring in a way that includes yourself. You see, energy is like water. It flows where you direct it. If you keep pouring it into a cracked vessel, into relationships that leak respect, love, or reciprocity, you'll always end up empty. But when you redirect that energy inward, when you begin to invest in your growth, your peace, your passion, something incredible happens. You begin to feel full again. You begin to heal. Because what once drained you no longer defines you. This is where personal responsibility comes in. You have to be brutally honest with yourself who, or what is consuming my energy right now. Sometimes it's a person. Sometimes it's a memory. Sometimes it's the story you keep telling yourself about what should have been. But here's the truth. You can't heal in the same environment that hurts you, and that includes the mental environment of rumination and regret. You have to change the channel. You have to consciously shift your focus from what's gone to what's growing. And that shift doesn't happen by accident. It's a practice. It's saying, no, I won't replay that conversation again. It's choosing to go for a walk instead of scrolling through their profile. It's turning pain into progress, moment by moment, decision by decision. Because your energy is the most sacred resource you have. Where you send it determines the quality of your life. When you finally stop giving your power to the people who no longer value it, something shifts inside you. You start to realize that peace was never about getting them back. It was about getting you back. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, every time you reclaim that mental space, you're not losing something. You're gaining clarity, confidence, and control. So stop investing in the past. Stop feeding what no longer grows. Redirect that energy toward your vision, your goals, your healing. Because the moment you decide to take your attention back, you take your power back. Silence. Most people underestimate its power. We've been conditioned to believe that silence means weakness. That if you don't respond, if you don't explain, if you don't fight for your side of the story, you've somehow lost. But the truth is, silence is one of the most powerful expressions of self-respect you can make. It's not about ego or pride. It's about energy, boundaries, and understanding that your peace is worth more than someone else's validation. When someone disrespects you, dismisses you, or walks away, the instinct is to react. You want to defend yourself, prove your worth, make them understand what they've lost. That's human. But real power doesn't live in reaction. It lives in restraint, because when you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim something sacred, your dignity. And that's something no apology, no argument, no last conversation can ever replace. See, silence communicates something that words never can. It says, I don't need to convince you I know my value. It says, you no longer have access to the parts of me that doubted themselves to please you. When you stop chasing closure, stop reaching out, stop proving, that's when the energy shifts. That's when people start to realize what they lost. But the beauty is by the time they do, you've already moved on. Because silence doesn't just distance you from the noise. It brings you closer to yourself. And here's the deeper truth, silence isn't emptiness. It's the space between impulse and wisdom. It's the moment where you stop asking, how could they do this to me? And start asking, why did I keep allowing it? Silence gives you the clarity that conversation never will. When you're no longer distracted by their words, their excuses, their justifications, you can finally hear your own voice again. The one that says, you deserve more. The problem is we confuse noise with connection. We think if we're still talking, still texting, still engaging, we still matter to them. But sometimes your silence speaks louder than anything you could say. It's the ultimate boundary. It's not revenge. It's not manipulation. It's maturity. It's saying, I choose peace over participation. Because not every battle deserves your presence, and not every comment deserves your answer, and not every person deserves continued access to your heart. People who truly value you won't put you in a position where your silence becomes necessary, but those who take you for granted will only understand your worth when your absence speaks for you. And that's not being cold. That's being conscious. That's recognizing that peace is not the absence of pain, but the presence of discipline. The discipline to say nothing when your ego wants to scream. The discipline to walk away when everything in you wants to stay. The discipline to trust that silence will say what words can't. You have to remember, silence is not the end of communication. It's the elevation of it. It's saying, I've spoken all I needed to speak. Now I'll let my peace do the talking. Because silence is clarity and clarity is freedom. You can't find healing in constant noise. You find it in the quiet moments where you finally understand that you don't need to be heard to be whole.